In this session today we are going to discuss about of the accounts payables. Accounts payables. So what exactly by the accounts payables in the sense of for whom we have to pay, which we are calling them as an accounts payables. Nothing but like an accounts payables is nothing but like a vendor accounts. So in this vendor accounts, if the client is having a multiple of the vendors, how to maintain those of the vendor records and as well as how to maintain the purchases from the vendor and as well as the payments to the vendor, and also is there any returns will be there or anything will be there, how it will be happens. Yeah. And this today's session, today we are going to discuss about the concept of accounts payables. So what exactly by the accounts payable in the sense of for whom we are paying, those we are calling as an accounts payables, and simply which we can call it as an vendors. So each and every company can have a number of the vendors will be there. As like that, our client is also having a multiple of the individual vendors. But what the client is asking now in SAP is they want to divide all the vendor masters
So,
different areas instead
no,
of,
1 second. So sorry to interrupt.
yeah, you can.
Uh, so, uh, can we do the session little slowly for today?
So accounts payables is nothing but like a vendors. So here also wherever the client will be there which we are working, and that client can have a lot of the vendors also with them. But what the client is saying that instead of maintaining of all the details of the vendors into a single book or in a single one, they want to separate all the vendor masters into the different parts. That means simply we can say that what the client is saying that they want to define vendor account groups. That means separation of the vendors into separate groups, and also which fields are required and which fields are not required when preparing the vendors into the particular group. That's what we can call as a defined vendor account groups with screen layout. That means on SAP, whenever we want to create the vendor master, there should be a multiple of the requirements will be there. Under that, the first requirement will be the define vendor account groups with screen layout. What exactly by the define vendor account group with screen layout in the sense of? There is nothing but like a separation of all the vendor masters into separate parts, and also maintaining of that which of the fields are required and which of the fields are not required. That's what we are calling as a vendor account group with screen layout. And the second requirement here, it is create create number ranges for vendor account groups. Create number ranges for vendor account groups. So what would be the purpose of the number ranges? Means, say for example, if I have divided a multiple of the vendor masters into different groups, like raw material suppliers, packing material suppliers, chemical suppliers, whereas VS vendors, EK vendors, domestic vendors. As like that, I have divided all the vendors into the separate parts. And after that, what I want to say that in the raw material suppliers, I can have the totally 1,000 members of the vendors. In the packing material suppliers, I'm having the 1 lakh members of the vendors. In chemical suppliers, I'm having the 10 lakhs members of the vendors. But each and every vendor should have the one identification. That for that identification, which we are giving one vendor number. So here, how many of the vendor account groups will be there? That much of the vendor number ranges we need to create. So for example, if I am having the raw material suppliers, packing material suppliers, chemical suppliers, like that 3 vendor account groups there. That means I need to create the 3 number ranges separately. Like that, the second requirement will be the create number ranges for vendor account groups, and third one would be the assign assign number ranges to vendor account. Whatever the number ranges which we have created, those number ranges has to be assigned for our vendor account. So that means totally we are having three different types of requirements. Initially, the first one would be the dividing all the vendor masters into separate parts and also maintaining the screen layout. And the next one is the maintaining the number ranges for those of the account groups. And at last, whatever the number ranges which we have created, the number ranges has to be assigned for the particular account group. And instead of these three, one more major requirement is that create a general ledger for sundry creditors. Why? Because if every company having a multiple of vendors, but each and every vendor should have the one ledger. But what I'm saying that instead of maintaining an individual ledger for each and every vendor, we are maintaining a clubbing a multiple of vendors for under one general ledger. That ledger which we are calling as a centric creditors. Creditor means who gives the credit to us. Sender means the group of the creditors. That's what we can call as a centric creditors. So whenever in SAP, if we want to create the vendor master in the GUI, these are the customization steps which we are having. So that's why generally which we are saying that on SAP, if we want to create the vendor master, vendor master, there is four requirements will be there. There is four requirements will be there. And those are the four requirements is the first one is the create number ranges for vendor account groups and create number ranges for the vendor account groups and assigning number ranges to the vendor account groups and create the general ledger for the centric creditors. And now the first one, create number range, create vendor account or define vendor account. Define vendor account group with screen layout. So here what we have to do that we need to create a multiple of the vendor account groups and also we need to create the maintaining of the screen layout also for that. For that from here SPRO, SAP reference IMG and then SAP reference IMG and financial accounting here, financial accounting. Under the financial accounting, till now we have done the financial accounting global settings and as well as the general settings. Now we are going to the accounts receivables and payables. Under that receivables and payables also now we are going to discuss about the vendors and then master data. Preparations for creating vendor master data. We are not creating the vendor master, we are maintaining the preparations for vendor master data. Under that, define vendor account group with screen layout. Define vendor account group with screen layout. So from here, which we need to create the vendor account group and also the what are the fields or which of the fields are required on it. So here, just go for the new entries. So as which we are discussing about of the Hindustan Lever Limited, the company. So that's why here I am creating the HLLR. So what it was in the sense of raw material suppliers, simply which I am calling it. Raw material suppliers. That means which I am in require of the one account book with the name of HLLR and under that HLLR that should be the raw material suppliers. But when creation of a vendor under this group in general data, in address data, which of the fields are required and which of the fields are not required, and which of the fields should be maintained as an required and which of the fields would be make the suppress and which of the fields should be the optional, what it was. So here name for when creation of a vendor, the name should be the required, and as well as postal code and city will be the required, street will be the required, district will be the required, region will be the required. As like that, which of the fields will be required, we need to maintain as a required. If the fields are not required, even I don't want to see the fields also, then what we have to do that, we need to make it as a suppress. Suppress is nothing but like an hide. That means I don't want to maintain these fields. So please remove these fields which we are calling as a suppress. Even if you can maintain as an optional. When we are putting as an optional in the sense of, if we are putting as an optional, what will happen is either or. If you want, we can use that. Otherwise we can't use it. We don't use it. So which those type of the fields we can put into the optional. And if any field at present which we don't want, in future if you want we can use it. In those of the fields, for those of the fields which we have to maintain as a display. So what are the, how we people can make the screen layout in the sense of by using the 4 different options, we can use the maintaining of the screen layout using by the suppress, required, optional and required. Suppress is nothing but again hiding of the field. Optional is essentially either are required in the sense of mandate. Like that, how would you use? So this is the book of HLLR, that was in a raw material suppliers. Under the raw material suppliers, in general data when creation of a address. Just go for next group. So after the address, it was asking about the communication. That means nothing but like a contact details. Which of the contact details is required? I am putting all these fields are the required for me. When creation of a vendor, all of these fields will be the required for me. And as well as next, control. This is the screen which we are not using till now. Why? Because this is the screen fields which we are using when maintaining of the vendor is the vendor and the customer. In any situation, if the vendor and the customer both can be the equal, but we can't say that both can be or both should be. Both may be. That means our supplier and our customer. If the both of the persons can be the equal, then only we can use this. Then only we can use this. So at that situation only we have to use this one. That's why I am not using any of the fields. Just I am leaving blank and I am going to the next. So when I am going to the next group, it is asking about the payment transaction. We are not making the payment for every time the vendor with the same payment transaction. That's why I'm not using this one also. And in the next, which it is asking about of the contact person. When creation of the vendor master, is the contact person is required or not? Yes, it would be the required. See, whenever I am going to the next, when I am reaching to the contact person, there is no more next field will be there. That means it has been finished. That's why I simply come back from here. So here, general data was done. Next, I have to go for the company code data. Under this company code data, we need to use that account management. In that account management, I am in require the cash management group or reconciliation account and as well as the sort, and then make it as a sync. Now what we have done that we have created a one of the account group which is the name of HLLR, and also we have mentioned the name of the raw material suppliers, and we have created the which of the fields are required and which of the fields are not required, like which of the general data fields required and which of the company code data fields required and which of the things will be required, which we have done. And then save. Now it was like this. This is the first requirement which we can call as a define accounts group with screen layout. And As like that, we can take in a multiple of the screen layouts or multiple of the account groups like raw material suppliers, packing material suppliers, chemical suppliers. Other South region vendors, East region vendors, North region vendors also we can take this. Other else country-wise, US vendors, UK vendors, Australian vendors also. Okay. That whatever it was, all the vendors has to be dividable into the separate parts, which is called as an account. And the second one would be the create number ranges for the vendor accounts in the same menu path. In the same menu path, create number ranges for vendor accounts. Here, three intervals will be showing here. The first one will be the display. Means is there any number ranges will be there, that intervals which we need to see. Whenever we want to see that in the display mode, we can use this button. And what will be the status of this one? What that means, how many of the number ranges we have given and what would be the available of the present number range. If you want to see this one, we can go for the status. Others, change intervals and then insert interval. These are the number ranges which is already available. Now we need to create another one. Just click on the create interval and the number. We can take any one here, number. So how many of the account groups will be there, that much of the number ranges. So here I am giving here as a name something HR from number 400 200 and two number 400 200 and then press enter and then save. So I have created one vendor account group and also I have created the number range also. In the next step, we need to assign these both. That means assign the number ranges to the vendor account groups. As like that, first of all, how many of the vendor account groups we need, that much of the number, that much of the vendor account groups we need to create. And the next, how many of the how much of the vendor accounts group which we have created, that much of the number ranges we have to create. And after that, we need to assign those number ranges to the vendor account groups. As like that, here, select the position button. What would be the account group? The account group will be the HLR and the number range was HR. This is the account group which can have the number ranges of this one and same. Now we have created the first three requirements. What is the vendor account group and screen layout? What is the number range which we require? And that number ranges has been assigned to the vendor account. And the fourth one and the last one which we have to go for the creation of a ledger for the vendors, which is called as a sundry creditors. And these sundry creditors will be comes under on the liabilities. Why? Because vendor is not an asset and vendor is not in a capital also. Why? Because we are taking the material, that's why we are paying for that. That's why the vendor master list comes under on the liabilities. So here in the liabilities, which we need to create the one ledger under the liability side using by this FS00. Creation of a general ledger in the previous class which you are seeing this way. So here which we are using the company code of the HLL1 and we have already created the liabilities and the current liabilities and as well as the security. Now we need to create the sundry creditors. Sundry creditors. For that, create 4 in the company code of HLL1 and here it was a liabilities. All the liabilities will be considered on the balance sheet. Liabilities. And here it was a sundry creditors. And here it is a sundry creditors. Sundry creditors in the sense of nothing but like the group of the vendors. The combination of the multiple of the vendors can be clubbed in together under one general ledger, that ledger which is called as a sundry creditors, and all the vendor transactions can be reconciled by from here in this ledger. in control data. Here, which we have to set that this ledger can be reconciled with that vendors. That's why it is on a reconciliation account, and it can have the line item display. The itemized display transaction will be required, and the sort key. Sort key in the sense of how it would be going to manage the vendors. How to sort the vendors in the sense of I can sort all the vendors by using the vendor number wise. Whenever it was in a reconciliation account, we need to use the name. Whenever it is in a reconciliation account, we use the field status group of the Z067. It was in a G067. And then set. Now all of the requirements for creation of the vendor has been done. Now which we need to create the vendor master now. Till now we didn't create the vendor. We just maintained the vendor account group and as well as the screen layout and also the number range. Now we have to use the creation of a vendor master. For that, from here, accounting, financial accounting, accounts payable, and then master record, create. The transaction code for this one is the FK01. Here we need to create the vendor master. Till now we didn't create the vendor. Till now what we have done that for creation of a vendor master, whatever the customization steps will be there, we have done that those of the customizations. And now we need to create the vendor master in the company code of HLL1 and in the account group of HLLR. On HLLR and the company code of HLL1 for the account group of HLLR. That means raw material suppliers. I want to create a vendor master. That's why press enter. See, automatically whatever we have given the required fields, it will be going to mandatory. So here, what is a vendor name? Say for example of Punit Singh Chemicals. And then what is a street? Say something around Daria Ganj. And what is the district? Cali. And as well as what is the country? What is the city? And everything. Whatever the requirements will be there which we have maintained in that, everything has to be maintained. So as look at whatever it was. And then press enter. The telephone which we are given as a required entry, that's what it has to. And the mobile number. So everything, whatever we have created or whatever we have given there, those should be the mandate. Enter. Enter. The first name of the vendor, Punit, and the last name, Punit Singh. And who is the person of the Punit Singh is there? He is the person of there as a sales department. For them, for ours it wasn't a purchase, means for them it wasn't a sales. And as well as the person is comes under on the sales department of head of sales. Head of sales. Head of sales. Enter. And this vendor master is comes under on the which reconciliation account? This vendor master is comes under on the sundry creditors. And for maintaining of this vendor, the sort key would be the vendor number. And what would be the cash management group? What is the cash management group in the sense of whatever the company code country will be there, that means our country will be there, Hindustan Level Limited, and as well as our vendor's country. Is the both of the countries' currency will be the same or not? If the both are the same, then we can maintain as a domestic. That means, say for example, our company is located in the US. That means we are using the USD, and as well as our vendor is also in the USD. Then we can use it in a domestic. Otherwise, it was in a foreign payment. Like that, which of the requires and which of the not requires, we can maintain from there. And just press enter. Nothing is required. Whenever we are pressing enter, automatically it will be going to say. After after completion of all the fields has been filled, and you just press enter. When not the fields has been, all the required fields has been filled, automatically it will be going to save, and the system will automatically proposes the vendor number also. So here, how the system has been given the vendor number in the sense of whatever the number ranges which we have given and earlierly for this vendor account group, from that number range in the serial order, first number has been given for this vendor master as like as in a 40020. This is for the creation of a vendor master. So as which we discussed in the earlierly, whenever the client is asking about of the vendor masters, for creation of those of the vendor masters, we require 3 4 different types of the requirements. The first one will be the creation of a vendor account groups screener, create a number ranges for the vendor account groups, assign number ranges to the vendor account groups, and also the creation of a general ledger for the sundry creditors, and at last creation of a vendor master. Now we need to, after creation of a vendor master, we need to make a purchase from the vendor. How to make a purchase from the vendor, and after making of the purchasing from the vendor, how to make a payment for them, and is the payment can be done by the cash or bank. When we are giving to the payment, what would be the discounts we have taken? What are the discounts which we have taken? As like that, that's further business process will be going on. I think so. Is Ms. Vaishnavi, are you clear about this one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's all.